Well, hello again. Welcome to another edition of CropLife Retail Week, a slightly more festive one. I'm in the bunker, but I do have my lobster vacation shirt on for reasons unknown. Maybe I'm just losing my mind. That's entirely possible too.
But undisclosed location and now an undisclosed reason for wearing lobsters on your shirt. Paul, I don't know. I'm beginning to get a little worried about you.
The chances of me going anywhere soon are slim and none. So what the heck? Let's just dress like.
I was going to say, I've been known to go on a good lobster safari myself. So I hunt those suckers down and eat them up. So I like lobsters. Although this time of year here where we are in Cleveland, I think clam bakes are a little more popular than anything lobster oriented, but it usually involves the clams and the chicken. But if you want to have lobsters in there too, I suppose go for it.
Yeah, it is indeed clam bake season here in Northeast Ohio. But not that we have clams here either, but we figure it out. So I'm going to turn it over to you because I know you got a few things percolating.
Okay, well, Paul, since it was so much fun doing this a few weeks ago, here we are again I'm going to hit you with, I got 3 items, and I guess under the heading of a good item, a bad item, and something totally unsurprising, given what we're going to be talking about. So which would you like to hear about first?
Oh, let's go with the good first.
The good first, okay. Well, as you know, China has been buying a lot of U.S. agricultural products despite the trade tiff they've been having with the U.S. Actually, we found out China is going to buy another 350,000 tons of U.S. corn here in mid-September. And it's looking like for the year, that'll put their total purchases of U.S. corn at about 7 million tons. So good news for the U.S. farmers that have corn coming into their fields, getting ready to be harvested. You do have a market there in China.
Excellent. Yeah, I've seen some Twitter scuttlebutt about prices and excitement on that front. So that's good news. So now the bad.
The bad. You remember about a month ago, I think it was now, that nice little weather event called the Derecho went through the Midwest and severely impacted a lot of our friends in Iowa. And actually, I was reading a story this morning that sort of gave some indication as to what type of damage we've seen from the Derecho. I know folks were sending us notes about fields of corn being flattened by these high winds. And actually, according to USDA, it looks like the Derecho in Iowa has wiped out about 9% of the corn crop there this year. So they're still expecting a very good harvest, but it won't be as robust as they had originally thought going into the weather event.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that it's only 9% given the pictures and everything else that we've seen. But I'm glad the majority of it's going to be salvageable and we can get this in the marketplace.
Yep.
So now the totally expected.
No, totally expected. Yes, not surprising and not at all. You remember a couple of videos ago, we talked about the fact that there was an environmental group that had filed a lawsuit in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, basically questioning the registration of Enlist back in the day, and that the court ultimately decided that there may be some gaps in the registration for Enlist, but it was okay. Enlist could still continue to be used without a problem. Well, unsurprisingly, that environmental group has refiled a new lawsuit with the Ninth Circuit Court, asking to once again have Enlist's registration re-reviewed, I guess, because they were not entirely satisfied with the court's original decision. So again, Paul, the drumbeat of going after the crop protection products that we use in agriculture continues.
Yeah, and it's just, it's in talking to CropLife America for a story last month, it was, the understanding and appreciation of, the non-political aspect of EPA and the regulators and the scientists doing the work. That lack of understanding has led to a lot of really silly stuff. I mean, these folks are working very hard. They're running these tests. They're evaluating the data. They're making decisions not based on politics, but based on science, and yet the public and even structures within the government don't even trust what EPA is doing, which is absolutely crazy. You can't run a railroad that way. We need EPA to be a trusted institution that makes really good decisions. And so that's, that was one aspect of the research, and it was research that on consumers that the CropLife America did, found out how little people know about the regulatory process, but also, and it's something we were talking about before the video started, and you tried to slam the door on me, and I cracked it back open again, was the whole notion of the terms crop protection and pesticides, and I wrote my column on that last month too, was, crop protection seemed like, and it is still, obviously it's something that's a little more warm and fuzzy from a standpoint of just being an approachable term. But as as I pointed out, and CropLife pointed out to me when we were talking about this, CropLife America, is it came along at the time the internet was really getting, becoming the place where everyone looks up information. When they look up information on pesticides, they look up pesticides. They don't look up crop protection. They don't know what crop protection is. And when they're asked to explain what crop protection is, it has absolutely nothing to do with what a pesticide is. So if no one can find the information, the industry is basically talking to itself in an echo chamber online if everybody's searching for pesticides. So the argument is maybe we should go back to calling these things as an industry pesticides. It is interesting. We're going to see how this plays out, and it's something that just really beginning to communicate with people on. But would the industry switch back? Would there be a groundswell of support for that, or is this just a really bad idea? So, yeah, I know you were you were concerned.
Well, I was concerned because I know that, of course, I like the term crop protection because, again, I've talked to my friends who don't know a thing about agriculture, and when I mention crop protection to them, they say, "Oh yeah, you're protecting something. This is a good thing." Whereas when I mention pesticides, they think of the things they were spraying on their roses in the garden to keep the aphids off their rose leaves, and in their mind that makes it a poison, therefore it's bad. I mean, I remember a study done a couple of years ago. I was at a meeting where they asked the same person if they would rather use crop nutrition products on their garden or fertilizer on their garden, and I think universally most of the people said crop nutrition sounded like a much better option for growing plants than fertilizer, despite the fact they're exactly the same thing. So I agree, though, about the search engine idea. I'm just not sure if it will actually fly with the general public. I guess we'll have to see. I know I heard Chris Novak talking, CropLife America's CEO president, at the MACA meeting last week, and he kept using the word pesticide in his presentation. So I guess we'll have to see how this plays out over the next year or so.
Yep, it is interesting. I mean, it's an important discussion because we are really at a low apex in terms of industry understanding. We're going to have to establish some new ways of talking to these people, some new ways to make people understand in the general public what we're talking about, and it may take some drastic measures because it really is at a low ebb as far as understanding, and can it be turned around? I'm sure it'll be debated and discussed, and hopefully some of the stuff that we wrote and some of the stuff that CropLife America talks about, which their annual meeting is coming up this week, get some feedback from their own membership and from the rank and file. But it's compelling discussion. It's fun.
Yeah, keep us posted on that. I'm sure you'll be able to give us an update when we do our video here at the beginning of October. So.
Yeah, and please read my column and feel free to react, even if you have absolutely complete disagreement with what I had to say. I want to hear it. So thanks. I appreciate any comments we can get.
Well, very good. Well, Paul, then I have a couple of last two items I have. This involve our favorite 5 capital letters and 2 numbers that sort of, describe year 2020 pretty well, and that would be COVID-19. COVID-19. We had been talking about how many trade shows had been canceled here in 2020. And I know on our last video, I think we speculated on some of the trade shows coming up in 2021 that may not take place. We did find out this week that there's already been a casualty. the World Ag Expo, which is normally held in Tulare, California in mid-February, will not be held in 2021 because of the after effects of COVID still going on. So lost another show, this one early 2021, Paul, so we'll have to see what happens. I know that I had mentioned the Commodity Classic folks had sent out a survey to their members, but the big one out there is the National Farm Machinery Show in Louisville, which tends to draw about 250,000 people to the convention center there. And I've been to that show for several years. I can say that social distancing is not something that can normally be done on that show floor the way it's put together. So,
yeah, it's like Farm Progress, except all indoors, which is oof.
Yes.
So we'll see, and that's a shame about Tulare, but of course California has much bigger problems right now than not having a conference. It's so rough what's going on out there, and our thoughts are all with those folks as well.
Yeah,
trying to get past this and into recovery mode.
Yeah, and one other casualty of COVID-19 being in the marketplace is normally this time of year. Our magazine CropLife Iron has its annual Product of the Year competition, where we basically gather information from the various trade shows we've attended and folks we've seen at those various trade shows in person, and put together a list of 5 finalists that everybody seems to think are the best products for the year. But as we've already noted, there have not been many in-person events, so we have gotten no feedback basically regarding new products. So what we're going to do instead is, since we're sort of in a new decade, we're going to have a Product of the Decade competition, where we're going to look at the products that were the Product of the Year winners between 2010 and 2019. Of which, Paul, there were 11 because you had one year where there was a tie. So we're going to put those up on our website for CropLife Iron and let readers vote on which product of those 11 they think was the best product that they remember from the past 10 years. So that'll be our little fun way to give. And of course, we have a virtual trophy awarded to the winner, since we're not quite sure when we could pass off a physical trophy at this point. So.
Very good. That should be fun.
Yeah, so check out the link. It should be on the screen from our friends at Matt Hopkins, our web extraordinaire, and we should be able to get everybody to get voting, and we'll be taking votes for about a month before we figure out who the winner will be.
Sounds great, Eric. Appreciate that. Appreciate all of you watching. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you again next week.
If you have questions or comments about today's episode of Retail Week, contact us by email or Twitter, or type your message in the comment section below.
Your feedback is important to us. We'll try our best to address your thoughts in next week's episode.
And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.